Hello, and welcome to Twin Bill, brought to you by delicious Coca-Cola.
Please give us money.
Yeah, uh, I love a trip to Georgia to see the plant. But anyway, no, this is Twin Bill, the podcast where two twins talk about movies mostly. I'm Jason Luna, joined as always, by my twin brother Marcus Luna. How are you doing this taping evening, Marcus?
First podcast we recorded since the Dodgers won the World Series, so woo woo, repeat it,
And the Mets re-signed Dicky Lovelady, as his friends call him. So
and Frankie Montas.
championship. Yeah, this whole thing because someone told the Mets that his name was Dicky Lovelady, and he said that that was vastly overstated, and he'd prefer if everyone called him Richard.
What is this, a Mets podcast now?
Yep, moron. Juan Soto's MVP candidacy after this. No, yeah. Maybe subconsciously I'm avoiding this because movie where me and you do not agree, and we'll get into that in a bit. But this week we're talking about Cabin Boy. So I'm gonna see how this goes. I want to try this. So basically, you say a sentence, I say a sentence, and sentence can have whatever you want in it. But the goal is to go as fast as possible for both of us to beginning and end the plot of Cabin Boy. You get the first sentence whenever you're ready.
All right, we get to a let's just call it a fancy boy school.
Yeah.
And Chris Elliott's character Nathaniel is finishing up his education there and go.
Yep. Uh, Due to a series of uh, misadventures, like insulting his limo driver who kicks him out of the limo, and getting intentionally bad directions, it seems like, from David Letterman's cameo as a sock monkey salesman, he ends up getting on a fishing boat instead of his intended pleasure cruise to Hawaii.
And on that, he gets on the boat and he meets a idiotic uh, boat assistant played by Andy Richter. And Nathaniel convinces himself, or maybe he's just that dumb, that the boat, because he's so rich, the boat would be fancier, but that it's like a costume boat where they are pretending to be raggedy and poor and stuff. So he's all aboard and he basically forces himself into the captain's room and takes a nap there.
Yep. Uh, his scheme, it's not really a scheme, but his nap is discovered by the captain, and he's reluctantly allowed to basically exist on the ship, and he plots to uh, basically swerve the ship away from its fishing goals into Hawaii, and as a result, that happens. And he also murders Andy Richter's dumb character.
Oh, sort of more of an accident, but yeah,
Negligent homicide, not the full degrees.
reckless boat management that resulted in manslaughter. Uh, but he underestimates how dumb Richter's character is. His name is Kenny, and rest of the crew wake up. The captain and the three crew members besides the captain, and the captain realizes they're heading to the island that looks like a skull. I can't remember what it's called. Um, Instead of Hawaii. And it's a very treacherous thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Uh, Due to Kenny's death, I'm sure I'm skipping things, but uh, Nathaniel is forced into a role as cabin boy, but I guess more accurately, New Kenny on the boat, and he gets in a very elaborate side sequence. He ends up in a raft 2 miles from the ship where he has psychedelic hallucinations of Kenny's ghost and a talking cupcake voiced by the guy who does Winnie the Pooh now.
Yeah, so after his experience with, because it's revealed that it's Brian Doyle Murray's character Skunk and the other crew member named Teddy or Big Teddy. Uh, no, the Shark Man is Chucky. Kind of getting distracted. That's not really keep critical part of the plot. Anyways, so they grow to like him more due to what through he endured and is still alive. And while en route to the island that they're afraid of, we're introduced to a new character as Chris Elliott observes a girl in a swimsuit floating in the water and nets her in. And she's upset with him because she was trying to break the world record for long distance free swimming,
She was
but she's
circumnavigating.
disqualified now because she made her touch something solid.
She was circumnavigating the globe while swimming. Right? Yeah. Uh, so they get to the island, and the basic plan is to maroon Chris Elliott and the swimmer girl because they're annoying and not part of the crew. And the big diversion is that I should let you talk. Yes. Big diversion is Chris Elliott is told about a woman in the mountain who has sex with men to teach them how to be men.
Yes, a blue goddess type figure named Callie. Chris Elliott loses virginity to Callie, and it does make him a better man, but he accidentally leaves his wallet behind, which reveals his presence to Callie's giant husband named Mulligan the Giant. And uh, while Trina and Nathaniel are hooking up, because now Trina likes Nathaniel, Mulligan the Giant sees the boat going away and assumes Nathaniel's on it and goes on to destroy it. Goes on to destroy it, and Nathaniel decides to try to rescue
That's a long sentence.
people.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
pretty good to go.
so, uh, thanks to a Deus Ex Machina assist from Choki, the Shark Boy, played by Russ Tamlin, and Chris Elliott using a giant belt or something.
Yeah.
They basically murder the giant or kill him. We skipped over the ice monster, but that was pretty non-eventful, honestly. Yeah, and so the giant's dead, and in gratitude, the fishing crew offer to take Chris Elliott and the swimmer girl to Hawaii to wrap things up.
And in Hawaii, uh, Nathaniel's sad because although he hated them at first, he loves them now and wants to live on the sea. But he also realized he should do what his father wants him to do and take over the hotel in Hawaii. So he meets with his father. And what happens from there?
Uh, During the meeting with his father, he realizes that he's outgrown the douchey rich guyness of his dad, and basically runs away from the rich guy life to chase the boat alongside the swimmer girl as the credits roll. Yep.
And that's Bean, as they say. I don't know what to
So
add.
before we get to our debate, I want to give the audience and just my own public speaking a little bit of backstory on Chris Elliott and this movie. So, kind of wacky story. So, uh, Chris Elliott's dad is Bob Elliott. It doesn't really factor that much into Chris Elliott's story, surprisingly. I guess maybe he got some breaks from nepotism, but Bob Elliott's a famous comedian. But anyway, he was working on the David Letterman show as like a writer slash bit player, a lot of like cameos and stuff. And he made friends with the writer on who's the director of this movie. What's his name?
Whose name? What?
Director. I thought you had to pick
Oh,
your thing up. Whatever. Doesn't matter. The director,
Adam Resnick, sorry. Right.
that's fine, is writer producer on the NBC Late Night with David Letterman show. And together they developed a sitcom, which I want to watch some point, called Get a Life, where Chris Elliott's kind of like this movie, very absurdist, where he's a grown man who has a paper route and lives with his parents. Anyway, they may have been working on Cabin Boy. They probably were, but at the same time, Tim Burton watched Get a Life, presumably on his television at home, and called Chris Elliott, and he's like, "If you're ever making a movie, I'll direct it." So they developed Cabin Boy with Tim Burton, but then Tim Burton had a ambition, I guess, to make the Ed Wood biopic, and then so he had to drop out. And the writer producer from Dave Letterman jumped from writer to director. Tim Burton produced. I don't know how much input he had on the movie, but so that's where we are. A movie that was supposed to be directed by Tim Burton and was directed by someone who never directed another motion picture. So let's talk about the movie. I think this movie could be charitably described as weird. That's probably like the most complimentary description.
Definitely the best part of the movie is its weirdness.
Yeah. This movie has a lot of stylistic tropes that are kind of weird to unpack because the heart of the movie, the pirate stuff, it's got a very, what's the word? Artistically inspired, lots of like saturated colors and although it's weird, sometimes it's like it's a painting and it's very artistically designed, and sometimes it's cartoonishly lazy. Like we didn't talk about the fight with the ice monster because there's like a thing in the middle that didn't really change anything. But they filmed that against a blue screen. It's the first movie I've ever seen where you could tell it was a blue screen. They didn't like key it out or change the background. I guess it makes sense for the ocean, but that
I
was
think
a
that
blue
was
screen.
it was intentional because you could tell they filmed on a sound. I think they intentionally could earlier in the film you could tell it was a sound stage when he first gets on the boat. You can almost see like the a sheet making the sky
Yeah.
like it was in a sound stage.
Another weird thing about this movie that in a different movie we consider like a plot hole almost is that because when I heard about this movie and saw pictures of it and stuff, I assumed it was a period piece, which I guess it kind of is. But then I guess it was just supposed to be a joke because they open on the dandy school where there's still men wearing wigs, but then he takes a limo. They don't really address any modern advances after that sequence. Your thoughts?
Uh, sorry, what's your question?
It was just odd to me that because they show the dandy school, dandies are a very antiquated concept, and the movie's set on a boat that's not like super new looking, and it's a lot of pirates and adventure and stuff. But then he rides a limousine to the docks. It feels like reverse anachronistic.
Yeah, that is the one thing that feels somewhat like modern day. You're right. It does. it's not really fair to call it a period piece because that would require a greater effort.
If you
But
took
this
out the
movie's
limo,
lacking.
it would. I think it would qualify as one. Because
So really it shows what time it's in, though. So I kind of assumed time-wise it was set in 1994 or whatever when this got released.
yeah. Mm, what else? So I know we're both relatively critical of things that don't adhere to rules and stuff, but uh, did you find the meandering plot full of side things charming or annoying?
No, I thought if the closest it came to saving the movie for me was the Shark Man tobacco spitting cupcake, the ice monster, the
Yeah,
the weird people, the faces blow, clouds turning into faces and blowing wind.
yeah. I did think. I don't know. The movie seems to want to have it both ways, where it's like it's absurdist, but it still has a heavily traditional narrative. The
Yeah,
character increasingly redeems himself and changes, has a love interest. I agree that that's probably like the weakest part is that it felt like it was playing it safer than it should have because it wasn't like a movie like this was going to win over mainstream audiences and be like, this is a normal movie people want to watch.
I'm not saying it should have gotten this weird. And I've actually never seen this movie, but I did kind of think of is that Alex Winter movie where he
Oh,
or is
that movie's way well. I don't know if it's way better than this, but I thought it was stylistically a lot better. It's called Freaked.
there's crazy shape-shifting and monsters and
Yeah,
doesn't make sense. That could have
Freaked
gone
actually
more in
has a very
that
I don't know.
direction.
Yeah, no, but the similarities are there. It's a lot of awkward special effects motivating the appeal, and a lot of character actors in both movies. Let's talk about I don't know. I don't know there's no transition here, but I liked talking about the weird stuff. The character actors in this, the weirdest one to me, and maybe you didn't care about it as much as I did, but Brian James, who was like the tall, heavy, in like every movie he's ever been in, like Tango and Cash. He's a tall henchman who's really strong, and there's a bunch of movies like that. And in this movie, they gave him like a nerdy affect, and when he talks like in quick bursts, entirely playing against type, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of immediately when I saw him was he died young, relatively young, 54, I think. He's a big guy. He might have had some bad habits too. But uh, he was in The Fifth Element as a, and that was he kind of faded to
Yeah,
the background in that, but his looks very recognizable.
that's usually what he plays is like relatively not soft spoken, but like doesn't have a lot of dialogue. Is tall and imposing looking.
He's one of the good guys, and he's like a cop or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's like yeah, he's not the lead of the police, but he's in there. Yeah. Anyway, and then uh, the the manager from Major League always always looks like he's kind of blind, but in this movie, really looked like he was. I don't know, super squinty.
Yeah, I his little sex joke thing at the beginning kind of bothered me. or he's saying inappropriate things in probably a made-up language. Um,
Oh yeah, I thought it just kind of sort of blended in. This movie has a very loose interpretation of dialogue. It's a lot of like non sequiturs and intentional jokes.
it would have been that funny anyways, but his big moment in the film is he's the one who kills the ice monster because he runs downstairs and gets the coffee machine and shoots it at the
Yeah,
ice monster and melts him.
that's
Um,
yeah. Well, I was
I
gonna
was gonna,
say that's the problem with doing like a satire. Not maybe satirical's too strong, but like a movie that's like not like other movies because the ice monster was like big and imposing, and then just kind of like went away really quick. It was kind of like, oh, that happened.
um, yeah. But I think I was gonna say with that scene though, it would have been funnier if they didn't reveal the coffee machine earlier in the plot.
Mm, I didn't even notice it that much in the beginning, so it's hard to say, but it was lame because it's just lazy that like, oh, a hot thing kills the ice monster. I mean, that'd be like a 0 points for originality.
Yeah, the movie's so surreal. That's what I'm saying. I wish we had more of that where it was, yeah, pulling weird MacGuffins out of nowhere and stuff that saved the day.
Or if the ice monster just did something, if it like smashed the boat or killed someone, or you know, had any sort of like pendulum swing in the plot. But
Yeah,
yeah, but and that's the same thing with the hallucination. It did make Chris Elliott nicer, but it also didn't like change anything tangible in the plot. It was just like he was out on the water for two 2 days or whatever ridiculous like the time, and then there he is. He's back.
this movie had a $10 million budget, but I think they spent it all on the special effects. And they're like, we're not doing any blood effects, so
Yeah, it's yeah to not kill any. I mean, not that I'm thirsty
they
for
did
blood, but
kill
to not. Oh, they killed Kenny, but
you bastards.
yeah, pretty much. And he was a nice guy, although terrible, cartoonishly terrible at his job.
I actually like the scene with him in hallucination where he's in a that white tuxedo and he says bonsoir and
No, like you say, as on its own merits, especially because the quality of the animation, that and then the cupcakes being like, I bet you're not gonna see anything crazy than a talking cupcake, and then and he just walks away.
yeah.
that was like that was the peak of the movie. Aside, the only thing I liked more than the talking cupcake, and you mentioned it in the thing, is Mike Starr as the husband of the thing because he played it completely straight. He's like, why did you convince me to open a souvenir store on a deserted island? Deserted island, and she's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you'll do better tomorrow." And he's like, "That doesn't make any sense." It's like it's very rash. It was very because usually Mike Starr just sort of kind of similar to Brian James, like a comedic version of Brian James. Always plays big fat guys who get mad, like in Dumb and Dumber. But in this movie, they gave him dialogue. He was really good at it. Oh, gold star for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since Tim Burton almost directed, I did kind of in my head compare this to Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I mean, it is different because Pee-wee's a very likable character.
Yeah, but the one thing that's very similar is the pros, what prolonged plot, I guess you'd call it. Pee Wee's Big Adventure is just thing after thing after thing, and a lot of the characters you meet are not that important. Don't add a lot of substance, like the guy who, criminal guy who cut the mattress tag and is all like super serious. Like that's not a three-dimensional character who comes back or anything.
Yeah, you start such a likable character in Pee-wee, and uh, yeah, yeah. I think it would have helped if they met more characters along the way.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like a play because it literally is the crew. They do add Trina, but it literally is just the five of them for pretty much the whole movie. There's the very beginning when they have the whole school and everything. That's very very quick. Um,
All right. Important question. I thought it was awesome. It was exactly what I expected it to be based on his personality and the way he talks in real life or slash on the TV show. What did you think of David Letterman's cameo as the salesman of the sock puppet monkeys? Do you want a monkey? A big girl like you's got to eat.
I don't know what we already called him a girl, but it was funny, a funny little cameo. Um,
Yeah, I thought. Yeah, because he played exactly like the David Letterman character. There was no real break into I'm gonna play sock puppet salesman now or whatever. All right, I'm gonna try something here. Might be awesome, might be terrible, but I've got the categories that a film reader uses to grade a movie, and then we can debate how we think this movie is good or bad about these. We try to do this a little rapid fire, but no rush. So, if you had to pitch this movie as a concept, how highly would you grade it? Is this a great idea for a movie, or a bad idea, or somewhere in between?
the concept is a rich a-hole accidentally goes on a fisherman crew. Is that the concept? And then I guess meets and goes through it with them and eventually makes it to where he needs to go and learns things along the way.
Yeah, I think it's pretty thin as a premise. I think you'd have to pitch like Chris Elliott is funny, quote unquote, and then I like Chris Elliott, but that's pretty much what carries the pitch, I think.
Yeah, Nathaniel Mayweather, which is his full name. Yeah, that's what the pit weakens the pitch is Chris Elliott going into it. If I was a studio executive, it's like who's Chris Elliott? And then I don't watch, I don't stay up to watch David Letterman.
Yeah, I think he was probably well done with David Letterman by this point, probably more on the TV show, but yeah. So I think we both agree it's pretty low. And then what do you think of the characters? How well developed are they, and how believable are they to an audience?
Uh,
I think there's a certain charm to the characters. I'm a little biased because I like weird comedians and character actors and stuff, but I thought they did a pretty likable enough job. I do think there was some weakness in the acting if you analyzed it super deep. Like Swimmer Girl hasn't done a lot of movies and she was okay, and a lot of one-notedness, especially manager from Major League. But yeah.
are they believable? No, this is a total fantasy thing. Um, how likable are they? My first instinct, and I guess I'm somewhat softened towards your opinion, but I'm still more in my initial opinion of they come off as a-holes.
Yeah,
It's it hurts the movie. It's hard to like a movie where they're mostly a-holes.
fair, fair. I mean, it's definitely an antagonistic relationship because even when Chris Elliott becomes nice, he never stops saying insults. He just sort of doesn't get as a snippy when he rambling about how stupid people are. But I thought it was charming in a way. Speaking of insults, how the quality of the dialogue and any perceived naturalness of conversation. Probably gonna disagree a lot on this one, but yeah.
Um,
I will say, oh, sorry, yeah, I will say the dialogue is very well articulated, like its individual lines. It's a lot of joke here, joke here, joke here. I thought it was pretty witty, and I enjoyed listening to it. So I would rate it surprisingly high, but I will admit that it's not very good at like building a coherent plot through subtleties in dialogue. So it's both.
I didn't think it felt very natural, and I don't think it's supposed to. It's a very surreal movie, and it's crammed into an 80-minute package.
But did you
Uh,
think it was on a line by line inherently clever and funny, or did you find it not funny?
I thought they were just insulting each other in the beginning. I think it got better as it got more surreal. Um, and I think some aspects of the surreal characters were good. And I found the surreal elements more dialogue better than the actual people in the boat's dialogue.
All right. I think we have elements of agreement there. Like I think it's there's some positives because comedy writers writing it, but it's not coherent. The structure slash plot. We kind of got into this. It's kind of a weird mix of it feels loose when you first look at it, but also there's a lot of hackneyed things like, oh, he needs a love interest. He'll just rescue some random girl out of the water, and relatively quickly she has sex with him and falls in love with him. It just felt a lot of stuff like that where things just fell into place haphazardly, and I guess it was this quote unquote satirical in nature, but anyway, it was not a very good plot or structure for that reason. But,
Well,
yeah.
it's very surreal, and they even joke about how quickly she turns because once he has sex with the goddess woman, she's infatuated with him and loves every single word, and she even says it like all of a sudden, I don't know why, I'm into everything you're saying, and I used to find you annoying, and uh yeah, like I said, the plot is basically just fishermen trying to do their thing and the things you learn along the way. So but it's not supposed to be a good plot. It's supposed to be very surreal.
Yeah.
So the plot almost becomes irrelevant. It's just a means of passage, I guess, through the story
Yeah. I mean, plot is the
of events.
story or story is plot or one of those. Uh, but yeah. I mean, it's a road trip movie, I guess. I mean, it's just whatever structure you find is very generic, in my opinion. But yeah,
Boat trip. They're on a boat, Jason, not on the road.
but shipping lanes or roads. We're moving on.
We we don't need roads because we're on water and we're on a boat.
Yeah, Back to the Future
Back to the
4.
Future, not as pleasant.
We're on a boat. We're on a boat. All right. The pacing of the movie, not really a hot take. This movie is terrible at pacing. Even the part we liked, the hallucination, took forever. And the movie had a lot of just like we're in the middle of the ocean. Oh, here's an ice monster. We're in the middle of the ocean, and then just things just lingered all the time. It's so uneven.
No, you're the one who's loved this movie.
I like the movie as like things that happened, but as like a movie, it was boring. Fun dialogue sprinkled over water. So I felt like, yeah.
I actually had that thought. 'Cause I watched this in two chunks. I was gonna watch it in one night, and then I felt sleepy during the movie, and I took a break and finished it the next morning. And I literally had a thought that said, "Pillars of the Flower Moon," which is over 3 hours, was easier to get through than this. And yeah, with the 80-minute runtime, there's
Yeah.
still parts that drag on. So yeah,
Felt like they were kind of like, oh, we need a feature film, and there were a bunch of TV writers who are used to writing either 2-minute Letterman sketches or half-hour sitcoms, and they're like, just keep going.
I thought about that. This might have been better suited for like a
TV show,
anthology type show.
or even just like I just think an HBO show about this would have been better than the movie. But yeah,
I don't know if they could have made a whole series out of this thing,
like
but yeah.
a mini series or something, I guess. But yeah, they could do like you say an anthology where every season is a new Chris Elliott movie, with like 3 episodes or whatever, and then this is kind of a free range category, but the tone, the overall mood and feeling of the script, I guess in this case it'd be towards sales, but just generally, the tone is very odd. It seems like it's like anti-movie, self-aware, the joke. It's kind of insulting to the audience, honestly. Like, oh, we're so much better than a normal movie. Ugh.
Yeah, the tone is everyone's a jerk and hates each other, and then it gets surreal, and then
A lot of meta commentary as well. But yeah,
it just stays surreal. The love elements between Trina and Nathaniel just fall into the surrealness. So it's mostly surreal as a tone, right? If that is a tone.
like you say, I wish it was more surreal. I thought it was a generic pirate movie by the end, but that was kind of the point. I don't know.
I think Tim Burton would have helped keep it more surreal.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I would defend this director, but I mean, David Letterman and nothing. That's pretty much his career, but yeah. Or I guess Get a Life, but yeah. Originality, which is a fun mix because, on the one hand, how unique is the movie, but also how fresh does it feel to the audience. This movie is insanely unique to the point of being almost off putting. I wouldn't say it feels fresh. It's like I've seen Popeye cartoons or pirate movies before. Any thoughts?
What was the category this time? Sorry.
No, the originality. So there's uniqueness, but there's also freshness. The audience is like, oh, this is new so it's not just yeah, both.
It's kind of original, kind of not. With this, the surreal elements are definitely original. Uh, but the Adrift at Sea and finally reaching a destination, kind of a romantic comedy ending where you can go the rich snobby way or go with your hardened pals you made along the way. It
Yeah, I think that
was
was
done 50 billion times in the 80s alone.
intentionally cliche. I will say the hallucinations and the claymation and stuff was kind of original, but also feels very derivative of like Looney Tunes and things like that. So it's kind of a mixed bag for originality. I mean, it's not wholly unoriginal. I mean, I agree it's fun, but it didn't strike me as like this new thing I would tell people about. But yeah, yeah, yeah. I think we've already answered this, but marketability. How well do you think this would be sold if you were pitching it? And I think it would go terribly, especially nowadays. Who's who? Chris Elliott?
I honestly, it's a shame there's not a lot of literature on this. I guess you could dig and probably find more production details, but if Tim Burton wasn't involved, I don't know if this would have gotten made.
Yeah, it does seem odd. It's like a big jump from like critically acclaimed but failed sitcom to expensive, well, relatively expensive, not that expensive, but cheap, yeah, feature film. I agree. It's kind of an outlier in terms of gambles, because yeah, it's weird.
This does not have a formula that is marketably successful. Chris,
Maybe Pirate Adventure, but like because like a vague Pirates of the Caribbean, the incredibly charitable. Yeah. All right, abrupt, but we'll be back after this short break. Welcome back from the break. We only have one film reader category to go. Conflict. How present did you feel with a central struggle or tension? Presumably one that you would enjoy or recommend.
so the conflict is the D-bag, Nathaniel wants to get Hawaii, but he
Yeah,
gets lost and he's with people who definitely don't want to go to Hawaii. Um, so then it becomes a tale of survival. And so it's him and the crew versus nature essentially. So it's a decent conflict. Obviously the stakes, it's so silly and surreal that the stakes feel lower. You can tell pretty early it's not gonna be a blood and guts sort of thing where
yeah,
you're gonna get stabbed by spears or shot by cannonballs or whatever. So it's a decent comedy conflict, I guess. Comedy adventure conflict.
yeah. So I mostly agree with what you said. I think the conflict does a decent job of transitioning from I gotta get to Hawaii to I wanna be friends with especially the captain who he calls Daddy, but also the rest of the crew. And then you think the conflict's gonna be that the swimmer girl is normal and Chris Elliott's insane and they'll never get together. So I thought the movie actually did a pretty decent job of sort of juggling things in to keep you like on a basic level motivated. Even if you didn't like Chris Elliott that much, you still wanted him to get somewhere or do something. So I thought it was surprisingly effective considering the limitations.
Yes, because despite him being an asshole, I don't think you really even want your worst enemy to get sidetracked from where they want to go, especially when it involves a boat travel type thing. Even
Yeah.
it kind of seems pretty scary in my head. I don't know.
To me, there's a nagging thought in the back of my mind is like, however much of a jerk he is, he's still the child of a rich man who wanted him to go to Hawaii. So it's like, well, he should probably go to Hawaii, but whatever. Yeah. So that covers the film reader criteria. So I guess that reaches the relative ending and rating portion of our podcast. So Marcus, you go first. Your favorite and least parts of the movie can be a scene, an actor, a character, just about anything that happened in the movie, and then you can give yourself try to be light, a 1 second, 1 sentence final review and score.
My favorite part, well, I like the surreal characters a lot, and Sharkman's the most prevalent one. I give it to Floating Cupcake. Do we have a name? Just Floating Cupcake in the credits. Okay. The Floating Cupcake is my favorite part of the movie. It's the king of the surreal elements that spits to everything about him. Way spits tobacco in Chris Elliott's face.
Just for clarification, well, what's the name of that actor? Does the Tigger and the
Winnie the Pooh, Jim Cummings.
yeah, excellent voice actor, but yeah. Least favorite part?
Least favorite is first 15, 20 minutes or so. How much I'll make it smaller. There's nothing redeeming at all about it's pretty quick, which I guess is good, but the school scenes in the beginning, how much of the jokes he makes in the quick little montage when he's his last day of school and graduation, they're all terrible, and he's incredibly mean to the rest of his classmates. There's nothing redeeming about it. And it kind of bleeds into the beginning of the boat sequence, but at least that's a little more entertaining. So I think got off to a terrible beginning in this movie.
So then,
I'm gonna give it over right now.
1 sentence summary and your score out of 10.
Uh, I enjoyed the surreal parts. I didn't enjoy the quote unquote comedy per se when it was just them giving each other crap on the boat and whatnot as much. But I like this a little more than my initial interpretation. Uh, so let's say five is average, I guess.
Yes, we're not doing grade school rules with 6 out of 10 being a D or whatever. So yeah, five is average.
Look at a four. It's like forgettable, surreal comedy. Somewhat forgettable, surreal comedy.
Yeah,
You do better. I like Pee-wee's Big Adventure is much better surreal comedy.
good recommendation. So my favorite part of the movie, I have to give an honorable mention to the David Letterman cameo because I love old clips of David Letterman on NBC and CBS, and it was everything I wanted. It was very funny, but I was surprised we didn't talk about this quote slash scene in our discussion. Uh, After he has sex with the blue lady, he he comes out on the mountain, and there's an echo effect, and he goes, "These pipes are clean."
This
Because
is pretty funny, yeah.
reference to the pirate captain saying you get your pipes cleaned by the lady. Yeah, it's a very funny moment, and just the audacity of it was awe-inspiring. My least favorite part, Gonna go with my gut here. Nothing against her as an actress, I mean, it's good we sort of broke the Bechdel test, not really with a female character. But I didn't like the romance with Swimmer Girl and Chris Elliott. They tried to make it ironic how bad of a matchup they were, but it was sort of like a Deus Ex Machina of sexy girl, very 90s in presentation, and it weakened a lot of the movie for me in hindsight because of the veering into self-ironic cliche that I'm not a big fan. I was not a big fan of. So yeah, yeah. Oh, and this movie's weird to grade because if you're somewhat like me, a big fan of absurdist comedy and David Letterman style humor and Chris Elliott, it's good, but it's also I zoned out during a lot of boring parts, and it's bad. So it's all things to all people. I'll give it a very gentle 6 out of 10 because of my personal skew and enjoyment of parts.
How do you go higher?
Yeah, just try to be fair to the fact that I could not watch parts of the movie because they were so boring. But yeah. All right, Marcus, you've graded this movie. You've only got 2 movies to pick eventually for this season. We'll talk about next season later. But what are we watching next week?
All right. Next one from the 1001 film list I want to watch. Keeping the comedy thing going. A little more old school to 1978. The premiere film by Cheech and Chong, Up in Smoke.
Yep. The birth of the hit song Earache My Eye. We'll talk about that and everything else next week wait. I guess you could say we'll talk about that next week on Twin Bill. Yeah!
Brr, brr, brr.
Book me on your shows or let's be best friends and hang out maybe. I don't know.